Bella.
Hey, happy Friday the 13th, everybody. Can you say hi, Bella?
Oh, Bella, are you scared?
Hi.
She hates to be held.
Peppers?
I didn't wear this week, though, you guys. Friday the 13th and stuff, I didn't wear.
Oh,
I'll
well,
go
that's
with
really good luck.
I'll go with 36 pounds.
Ooh, think she gained 4 pounds since last week?
I'll say
Depends
30.
on how much you feed her.
I'll say 30. She's getting so
She's done.
Ouch. Supposed to feed her?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now she's under the table, and you guys know
Yeah,
what happens.
I'll
when
get
that
her. So
happens.
hanging out this week again to my left.
Craig Euglin, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And happy Friday the 13th.
TGIF, Martha Makashati, and I am on Facebook. And I don't believe in anything Friday the 13th. So whatever it is, it is. So.
I hope it's not a full moon because I think my wife works at the hospital tonight.
Oh my gosh, I feel sorry for her and all the other
Yeah, I don't know if it's full
emergency
moon
personnel.
or not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say that has a big role to play in it.
but the full moon definitely does.
People's
They go a little off the deep end.
yeah, people's demeanor.
You believe in superstition, I take it?
I do not know.
I don't, but I think people lose their minds on full moons. I've heard
I
it from
think
enough
they
people
just-
at the hospital.
Yeah, I think that they use it as an excuse somewhat. I don't know.
That's
But
probably a
that's
better
just
way to
my
look at it.
opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything working okay? We're gonna get the show going this week. Friday the 13th. We got to make sure it's working right, don't we?
Mhm.
Right.
No ghosts in the background.
Yeah.
No weird noises.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's-
My throat's a little goofy this week, so I don't know.
I'm
It's
still
all
doing
those
this
wildfires.
allergy sinus
maybe.
thing. Yeah. The air quality.
So this is a special episode, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I think today, though, if you guys don't mind, I'll just respond to the messages. We won't talk about them at the end,
Sure.
or the comments, I should say. So still send us a comment, and I'll just reply back to them, I think.
Obviously, like, comment, and share, right, Matt?
Yes,
Hammer it out.
Hammer it out. Hammer
Hammer it
the like button. Hammer out a comment to us. We'll not read it at the end of the episode, but I'll just respond back to them. I'll just type it out. So because this is a special episode, I want our focus to stay on what we're going to talk about and ask questions for, because I get questions quite a bit, and no doubt you guys do too. But let's throw these up on the screen if we could. Question 1, you've had a little bit of time here to think about it, but a whole week or a week and a couple days, I guess.
Yeah, about 10 days.
Yeah, there you go. 10 days, that works.
Sure.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. 8 to 10.
10-ish.
I think it's more like 9.5.
I'll go with that, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Are you guys using mask racial math?
Yes.
The
yes.
New
COVID
math. New math.
COVID math, yeah.
2.4 plus 2.4 equals 5, right?
Yeah.
Rounded
No,
up.
according to mainstream media, it equals 105. But
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, okay.
Right.
What has been most challenging for you doing this podcast? What has surprised you most doing this podcast? Have you grown as a person doing this podcast, and how so? And the fourth question, what has been the toughest criticism you've received because you're doing this podcast? Who wants to go first? And we don't have to take these in order. I mean, we could, but we don't have to, I guess. It's not necessarily a 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
I want to start with surprised you the most during this podcast, only because color is a big deal for me, and I truly have realized how dark you have to put your makeup on. And I'm just saying this, like Craig, I was telling you earlier, from a woman's standpoint compared to a man's standpoint, how dark you have to put your makeup on. Otherwise, you look so washed out. Like how heavy eye makeup is. I usually wear a brighter lipstick, but how heavy you have to put your makeup on. Otherwise, you just look white as a ghost. So that's one of the things I'm most surprised about.
Yeah, the color, the cameras have a color, they automatically adjust for color and stuff like that. But your hair is so light, it kind of plays with it.
Well,
because
not naturally, but yeah.
Right, but it's
Yes, you gave away your secret, Martha May.
Well,
yeah,
well.
because you can't see your roots. That's what you
Hey,
meant, right?
stop, yeah.
Don't go any farther
No,
on that
I'm
one.
teasing. So that definitely throws the camera off
Okay.
and stuff. But I put dark makeup on too. Can't you
You
tell?
do not.
So, Craig, you have to answer that question. I mean,
Well, it's not a makeup problem because there isn't enough in the world to improve this. That's what I got to work with. So
no comment.
I wouldn't. Yeah, it's not going to go well. What has surprised me most about doing the podcast? That's a really good question. How many people are out there that have similar viewpoints? I think that would be a big surprise. You know, you always hear what the mainstream is trying to push, and the people that think otherwise seem to be suppressed. So it's kind of nice to be able to see people, you know, whether they're commenting on the show or friends that you talk to that watch the show or whatnot. It's kind of nice to hear people that have similar viewpoints or agree, like, oh, you brought up a really good point. I never thought of that. Or somebody on the show did, not just me. But I think that's been kind of neat to see.
That's a good point. Definitely get quite a bit of that. I don't know, for me. So honestly, for me, the biggest thing, and I already knew this was happening, but the biggest thing for me is that people are scared to speak up, even to share the podcast. And I mean, I got text messages during last week's episode. I think it's almost every episode, really.
Sure.
Text messages, and so that they don't comment like
Live.
live, like
Yeah.
they don't want their name out there. That's the thing that surprised me the most, which to me says an awful lot about what good is happening with shows like this. Because I think we're trying to just shine a light rather than, and I mean, we're giving opinion, yes, for sure, but we're trying to more shine a light on different things and opinions rather than just say it's this way.
Right.
But that surprised me probably the most, specifically with this podcast.
People are
they're just scared.
nervous.
Yeah, they're scared to like publicly say, hey, I agree with that, or I've noticed some of those things don't make sense to me. You know, just that kind of didn't think of it that way. They just don't want that to be known publicly. They don't like the show. They won't share it. They won't comment on it, things like that.
I agree with you. I'm pleasantly surprised with that as well, how we really are. And maybe, obviously, we don't all agree 100% of the time, but how general view of the show podcast is we are the majority, not the minority. So
yeah, it seems, that is
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? That's a good point.
Yeah.
One thing we do agree on and have, I think, always is that each of our opinions matters and it makes a difference. And we've done that in a respectful way. I've pushed back on you. I mean, I've gotten comments, you're kind of hard on Martha May. My own daughter, Craig, said, why are you so hard on Craig this week? You know?
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't think you've been hard on me.
Well, I think more so. She knows me pretty well.
Well, yeah.
But more so in the sense of that, you know, I'm pushing to think, right? I'm making comments to push thought, and
I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you. But you know, that's definitely something that you know, that's what we agree on, though. Really, is just that, hey, our opinions do matter, even if we don't agree with them. We allow each other to talk about them, and we question and challenge each other on those.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah,
because it makes me, if somebody does challenge me in a respectful way, it makes me kind of sit back and reevaluate my thoughts. And I'm very open to, at least I feel like I'm very open to others' opinions. And I've changed my opinions off of what's been discussed on the show and what I've read and seen on social media and other conversations in person. And I don't think that it's healthy for anybody to have your thoughts just cemented in the ground, because things change all the time and new information comes out and nobody knows everything.
What's the saying? New information equals new ideas, or something like that. Something similar to that, I think.
Sure.
You know,
written by George Washington, maybe.
I think no. I think it was one of the vampires or something like that. I can't remember. Abraham Vampire Slayer, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer. You know, he was a vampire slayer, right?
So it's close.
Yeah.
Washington, Lincoln.
Yeah.
Going back to being surprised to that.
I got fact checked. Literally, you know what? I got.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like I something I posted. I got fact checked, and there was someone's quote in, and I'm not going to say who it was, but it was in the last 10 days, and
on a quote.
Yeah, on a quote. And here's what they said and I you have to dig a little bit to say, you know, it's partly false information, all this other stuff they put on there. So you start digging and, you know, click, learn more. So literally the reason that they did it is because the person that was quoted is not alive to verify that that's actually what they said.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding. That was the fact check.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The person is not alive, literally.
Wow.
To verify that this is what they said verbatim.
I don't know what I said a year ago verbatim, let alone somebody from 200 years ago. Isn't that what the fact checker's job is to check the facts?
Oh, wow.
But why? What's the difference? It wasn't a political opinion. It was, you know, it wasn't anything.
It's just a saying.
It's just, you know, it's like, okay.
It's something grandma would have cross-stitched on the wall.
But then
you stepped on somebody's toes.
But then who's the fact checker? They don't tell you that. Our independent fact checkers, BS.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
Anyway, I let's move on.
Hey, wait,
That was
going back
a
to
quick
surprise.
dirt road.
Going back to surprise.
Yeah,
Talk
sure.
about fact checking. Since we started this journey in January, I have been extremely surprised by how much, whatever word you want to use it, shadow banning, suppressing, you know, you talk about your quotes and things like that, how much our show and the broadcast and live has been out there, but it's not out there. So the discrepancy of your quotes and everything that you post compared to how much the live podcast with our opinions, personal opinions, not claiming, you know, we know it all, but how much that's been suppressed to the public to see. So I've been surprised by that actually was truly still happening. Yeah.
Well, and that this little show in Southeast Minnesota is on the radar to be censored.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. And I had somebody, there's nothing we can really do about it. I had somebody look at it to actually show and prove that it's happening. Simple analytics shows that. I mean, I can see it, but I did have somebody look into it and they're like, yeah, it's not being like, you know, the algorithms and stuff are being shown to people. But I have people that subscribe to my channel and want notifications when there's videos specifically, and they don't get notifications like 85% of the time when they go up. I mean, that clearly says a lot. But when, you know, that's interesting because actually it did change quite a lot on January 6th when all that stuff happened and the unfortunate events there. Dramatically changed.
Before that. Remember,
it was happening before that, but not nearly as much and as bad. Yeah. But it was happening before that. But that changed a lot of things. I mean, I saw numbers that 110,000 people were banned from Twitter nearly immediately after that stuff.
So they already had a list. They were just
for sure.
For an excuse.
Yeah.
And when you ban the former president, like, come on.
Wow.
At the time was president, but yeah, but still. I think that says a lot of what's really happening and going on, honestly. So I think it's more important. But here's the thing. Another thing that surprised me when you bring that up about the shadow banning and things, the brainchild of this was, I believe, in October. I don't remember who I reached out to exactly first. Excuse me. It, you know, and it developed into where we have like 4 segments now, but the idea was like it was to find working class people and really, what does this mean to us? What's going on in the news? What does it mean to us? How is this affecting our lives and things like that? I think it's pretty powerful that we switch to the 4 segments: the entertainment, the U.S. politics, U.S. economy. Keeps us more focused because all those things affect us.
Right.
And so the brainchild of that back in October, and what surprised me is that people were very hungry for these things.
Yep.
All the statistics showed that people were wanting, they're searching for things that not specific narrative, but in opinion and how does this affect our lives and things. And that then as we first launched right at January 6th time, we're just massively suppressed everywhere. Massively.
We're just everyday Joes, right, Craig?
Yeah.
We're just everyday Joes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, in the trunk. Oh, sorry. We're just everyday Joes. I didn't get my microphone.
Yeah, you gotta. These mics are really made to be right on them. So, second question, Craig. What we did number 2? So
I'll tie in with the previous conversation and go with number 4 was what's been the toughest criticism I've received because I'm doing this podcast. Sorry, I wasn't even in the microphone when I said that.
No,
Yeah.
see, you need to yell that.
we picked you up, but
Okay. What was the toughest criticism I've received? I don't know if it's the toughest criticism, but the most frustrating is because these are all recorded. And I was having a dialogue on Facebook, which number 1 is not a good thing. And a person that's not a fan went through how many of our podcasts to find a 3-second soundbite of something that I said completely out of context and spun that to contradict what I was arguing in that conversation. And I'm like, how much time do you have to do that just to prove your point? But you're not proving your point because the quote you took was out of context.
very much so. I remember that.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Business must not be good where he has time to do that. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Too much time on his hands.
Too much time on his
Too
hands.
much time on his hands.
Yet he,
Yeah.
the same person, claimed that myself and another candidate last year had a bromance going on, and I'm like, oh my god, because he didn't agree with that
Someone needs to find
person's-
a big blue ox to spend time with.
Right. Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, it's with who it came from. I could really care less, but it's just like something that is old news, completely unrelated to what the conversation was about, was used against me or tried to be used against me.
Yeah,
And
I
it's just
won't.
like, come on.
I won't have thumb wars at all anymore.
No.
I did that stuff in high school and in middle school mainly, and I just won't do thumb wars anymore.
I like that.
It's like everybody's a keyboard
That name
warrior.
for it, thumb wars. Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Everybody's a keyboard warrior now, and when it comes to, like you've said, having a conversation or having discussion about it, everybody can sit behind a keyboard and camouflage themselves and blah blah blah, and everything. But
Well, and when somebody says, "Well, let's put the keyboards away," what you had just shown me, and
Yeah.
and some other people, let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk about it. But then, keyboard warriors take that as a threat.
Yeah.
Of, well, I'm not gonna meet you face to face because
because
you're
you
gonna
don't
do
have a
something
mask
to me,
on and you don't have a vaccine, and we're not
or
going to do
they
that.
or they just can't hide behind their keyboard. And it's like, but adults should be able to have face to face conversations, and you're not able to sit there for an hour and find one little tidbit of information out of context to support what you're trying to say. You have to be impromptu and
Yeah.
think off the top of your head. So, yeah.
Or have aides in their office pull up stuff and everything like that.
Martha May, toughest criticism.
Probably not using my nails or my hands. No, I talk with my hands. I'm very expressive. I talk with my hands. I'm used to maybe holding a microphone or something, and then maybe have
Yeah,
that
you
go
got to
here.
talk into your microphone. Go like
Well,
this.
I know. So, the microphone, learning probably more of the logistics of doing the podcast like this. Even once we got the earbuds, it became so much easier to be able to hear myself enunciate. Probably a little more physical things like talking slower. I get excited and that's kind of how it all comes out. Probably the enunciation. I think more with the sinus kind of nasal thing.
You've had criticism for that?
Yeah, that I need
Okay.
to enunciate words better,
Yeah.
not talk so. Yeah, Fargo, like, and I don't think I do, but when I've gone different places, people say that I talk like Fargo. So to not have that dialect in there. So probably more.
Maybe that's why people tune in, is because we have that.
Maybe. Going back to that, I think when we started, you had to get comfortable with really being comfortable in your own skin and knowing that this was going to go out to the World Wide Web and standing up for what you need to believe in. Craig, there's been times that I, maybe didn't say anything, but out of respect, I didn't. But knowing that I didn't stand up for that or agree, how we said that we just, professional, agree to disagree.
Yep.
Yeah. So the toughest criticism I just want to say, and I'll let you weigh in again in a minute, both of you, is I think maybe I should have started was, there's a lot of criticism, really, quite honestly, but some of the toughest one is just, why am I doing it? Sure. Like, and I think I really should say it like this. You guys know what I do, and I sacrifice a lot to be here every Friday to do this, a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And so does Craig, so does Martha May. When Lisa was here, so did she. And when Harmony was here, so did she. And that's how important it is for me to do this. Like, I'm sacrificing a ton. Martha May sacrificing a ton. Craig is sacrificing a ton. And I think that says a lot. And whenever Winston Churchill said that you have enemies, good. That means you stood up for something at some point in your life. And so I think, and I want to say, I get it. I'm not right. It's an opinion. Right. And I have a strong opinion. I get that. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea and all these other things. That's fine. And so the toughest criticism specifically for me has been, why are you doing this? You're an idiot. Like, literally.
Because they don't agree with you. So,
but let me tell you this. Let me say how this flipped. A couple of those people specifically that nailed me on this at the beginning are the biggest fans that we have.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Compared to, if you look at the comments from a couple months ago, you could see the shift.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add another criticism that was tough for me outside of this podcast. It was on my other podcast that I really started to realize it. And you guys have asked me many times, why don't we get a guest on? And we might. The show gets a little bigger. It'll be easier to get guests. But frankly, the reason that we don't have guests on this show is because people say no all the bleeping time. And why? It's exactly what you said, Craig. They don't want that face to face. They don't want to be challenged on it, and they just want their narrative. And I have been challenged on things throughout my life and throughout this last year and a half, and I've really changed opinions, certainly modified some of them. But if we have a base of shiny, I'm just kidding.
Turn it around. Let's see this.
And this one is specifically be strong, but no. And what I mean by that is that if we have sort of that what our base belief system, be challenged back to that, like, are we willing to change our belief because of something? And if we don't have, I believe, a solid belief system, that's where you won't sit down and have a conversation with somebody, I guess, is the shortest way to say that. If your belief system is so shifting sand, then I think you're going to have a hard time having a conversation with somebody who thinks differently than you do.
And I've seen conversations between people that I know you've invited on here, or you've reached out to your other podcast, and they said, why would I waste my time with that? We don't believe in the same things. Well, that's the whole point, is let's have an adult conversation, a civil conversation. It's amazing how much more civil people are when you reach across the table and punch them in the nose.
It's the thumb marks. Yeah, totally.
But like, if you really believe in what you're expressing, that's a nice way of saying spewing out, get on the show and defend yourself. defend your stance. And
just
people that are saying
I don't even
that,
want to say,
in my opinion, they're very intelligent people, and I think that they would stand their ground well.
They destroy me in debates. I mean, seriously, I'm.
What are they scared of?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll, honestly, I'm pretty fairly well read. Yes. I just have a high school degree. I'm literally like working class, bottom of the barrel. Like I'm right there with, you know what I'm saying? Like
Everyday Joe.
Yeah. And so, but I am well read. I do read a ton, and things like that. So that I do have that. So it gives you perspective and whatever, but any other criticism, Martha May?
Well, that kind of leads me into my challenge. Can I go right into challenge?
Yeah, let's go into it. Mm-hmm.
So the most challenging thing for me probably has been distance and working and making the time. Obviously, and you kind of alluded to that, where this is something that we stepped up to the plate, Craig and I and you, and chose to do and to continue with it. But obviously, when I started this, I didn't know I'd have a boyfriend 2.5 hours away and the logistics of traveling and working and different things like that. But to take that time to really take and ground myself again every week, meaning literally ground myself, not, as a negative, but as a positive, to really literally look for the different news that we want to cover, to look outside the 4 boxes compared to a lot of campaign information and topics that I was covering or looking up originally when we started this podcast, compared to different things that I'm looking for now, or how hard it is to also to find those topics out on the World Wide Web that we want to cover that aren't the same spin from media after media after media. So that's kind of been my challenge with that.
And I'm fortunate with my career that I can do my own schedules. And for me, Friday mornings, I don't take appointments. This to me is a priority for whatever reason. To me, this is fun. And, I've been criticized by people, oh, you're just wanting to spew off your crap. And, well, so what?
You could do that. You could do that whenever you wanted to. You didn't have to. You have to do it in a schedule.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, you can turn it off. You don't have to listen to us. But it's fun to have the conversations and to hear different people's perspectives. And the first couple of weeks were pretty nerve-wracking with the lights and cameras and stuff. But I think we're all to the point now where it's like we're comfortable with the conversations that we're having and with each other, and that we can call each other out if we don't agree with something or whatever it would be. But I don't really know I don't think there's been a lot that's been challenging. I think if anything, it's been able to have the time to get more in depth in some of the topics. I need to push myself to do some more research on some of our conversations before the show starts. Mm-hmm. So, and I know Matt has a lot of airtime when you do your research, because you do a ton of research on these things. Right. And I need to force myself to make more time to do that.
But I'm not usually, by the time I get both of I'm back.
Right.
So I don't research your topics until typically.
Right. Well, and we're getting them out the morning before, and maybe that can be adjusted. But
they're pressing. They're like hot. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, you send in your topics, and then 4 hours later, like, oh God, this one would be so much better, and it just popped up the night before.
Yeah. Breaking news.
Yeah. And I think as we get better, we might be able to adjust that a little bit. As we get better, meaning. We're more researched anyway, and so we might already have information on that specific topic.
Mm-hmm.
But even talking about research, look at how hard we've had even sharing topics, how you can't click on a lot of links, or you got to pay to open up links. I mean, that's been challenging as well, too. To actually find and anchor on that information and have that documented of where we're getting that information from has been struggling as well, because a lot of the sites you can't just go to Post Bulletin so many times without paying for a subscription and everything like that. So
in your topic last week about Biden claiming to be a truck driver, and you couldn't find that subject
like I said,
anywhere
I watched it live.
else.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that it happened.
Right.
Known it. Yeah.
So it's really, it forces us to be more aggressive to find other resources
In tune
for
in
the same
tune.
stories.
Yep.
Or for the same subjects. So that's kind of been fun to almost turns us into investigators.
You
Yeah,
bet.
yeah,
Nose
yeah,
for
yeah.
news. The nose for
The-
news.
Yeah.
So the most challenging for me personally has been to be less biased, honestly. Like, I
Be
mean,
more open-minded.
we all have our own bias. I mean, and there's something called confirmation bias, and that is very much prevalent in most people's world and life. And I have it as well. But I really do, I work hard to, like I said earlier, be well read. I mean, I've read all kinds of stuff, conservative stuff, liberal stuff, leftist stuff. I mean, just all over the place. I've read tons of things. And I think that helps me to understand that I have the confirmation bias, opening up your mind to all these different people and what they've wrote about and things. I think that's helped me to see, okay, here's my bias. Here's why I want to confirm it. And I think that helps actually to have the conversations like this. The challenge is also the solution. And that's kind of like what you said earlier. Why won't they come and sit down and
Right.
have those conversations and things? I mean, they would take me to class, man.
Matt, you've complimented me a few times talking about that confirmation bias, but how I've grown out of my four sidewalls or four lines, kind of thing, and all that. So I've been flattered by that compliment, just because, you can see how you have, and it's not a personal agenda, but it's what you've been looking for and what you've looked at, and now with the opportunity of all this, we've kind of taken on different sides of the story, even though a lot of them tend to be kind of the same thing, but just looking for that other side of the story as well.
So would that be your three? Have you grown as a person doing this podcast, and also, Martha May, is that your question three?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was leading into that. Yeah, definitely how I've grown, and looking at, and I went to school for journalism, who, what, where, when, why, and how much that's not reported, but how much there's an agenda from whoever's pushing that. And my own agenda was to maybe just look for what I wanted to. And it's not having blinders on. It was just, I already knew what was kind of going on, but now I confirmed maybe more what was going on by looking outside those four walls. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And do you remember what I said in your interview or whatever you want to call it?
When we had a conversation.
Deciding to bring you on or not.
What'd you say?
I said, I am going to push you
Yeah.
to make sure that you are speaking factual.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to say, here's where I found it. It's not just a third or fourth party. Remember that?
Yep, I do.
Yeah. And I think that I didn't say that as a negative. I said that as that's what this shows. I said
Right.
this similar thing to Craig.
It shows credibility, and I do know a lot of information, but citing your sources or where does show your credibility. So it's not a he said, she said, or whatever's out on the news. So it does show credibility with that.
Yeah, because this podcast is specifically about showing the news and sharing a working class opinion. And that's why.
Yep.
It's not just simply, having coffee and BSing.
Right.
So, number 3.
So
have you grown as a person, and how so?
I think so.
Craig, look at that beautiful mustache you have.
I mean, that's grown.
What are you talking
It
about?
only took 45 years.
I used to sit next to you. Now I sit across from you, and we're looking
To
at that.
look at this thing all day long.
Yeah, so now we're looking at that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I had to
it's funny.
interject there with that.
I think through my campaign last year for city council, that really pushed me to open my mind up to other people's opinions. And I talked to a lot of people during the campaign and some friends about, like, what's your thoughts on me doing this, and what do you think I should do or work on? And a good friend of mine said, make sure that you really listen to all sides of the stories and other people's opinions, and open your mind up to other types of thoughts. So I think that kind of set me up for this show to to come in with an open mind, but I think the show has really cemented that of, I have my thoughts and my beliefs, but other people have different thoughts and beliefs, and it's more of the, okay, you listened to those thoughts, but now you need to do the research on where those thoughts may have come from, different opinions and stuff. So, I think more critical of myself and my opinions on things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
To really make sure that I have the background or make sure that I have reasoning for my beliefs, not just because it seems like it's the right thing to do, but like, okay, why is that the right thing to believe in there? But still be open-minded.
Very nice, Craig.
That's the one. That's what I was gonna very similarly say is how I've grown is to really reinforce my why. Why do I think this way? Why is this my opinion? I think that's how I've personally grown more doing this show specifically. Is just that, here's my why, and understand. I think
defend your why.
Yeah, maybe not defend, but certainly give it a little bit more girth, have a little bit more foundation behind it, and
stand for the why.
Yeah, right.
That's what
yeah,
I'm saying. Stand for the why. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
kind of going back to, I think that I said that one time, if you're not going to stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
So I think we've reiterated that in quite a few podcasts, meaning like just be who you are and understand who you are and stand up for who you are. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
And it's, I think our feet are being held to the fire while we're saying things, but it also gives me a little bit more comfort to hold other people's feet to the fire of, okay, this is what you're saying. Why are you saying that? Why are you so dedicated to your beliefs? Why? Is it because of what the media told you? Is it because of what you believe in? Is it because of what somebody else is trying to push onto you? So I think I'm a little bit more open about that as well.
And Craig, too, I want to exaggerate on that too. Like, really, at the end of the day, it is our beliefs. It is our faith. It is us who is accountable at the end of the day. So if you're going to persuade, or if you're going to be wishy-washy or easily persuaded or influenced by others, are you holding yourself to that same accountability that others are? Does that make sense? And I want to just throw a little faith in there, but at the end of the day, I have to answer to God, why I did what I did or who I am or what I'm doing, kind of thing. And if others have that same accountability, are they doing that as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that everybody has to answer those questions, right? Yeah. Like, are you a person of faith? Are you an atheist? Are you agnostic? I think every person has to answer that.
Yeah.
And that's important. And the point of saying that is that's important to do.
Right.
Like, admit to, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm an atheist, so you believe in yourself. Well, that's your God then, or whatever. I mean, right. I'm not saying that. I'm certainly not an atheist. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying that I think that's where a person's foundation has to kind of be brought forward in order to have good, honest conversation and good, honest dialogue and things like that. So I guess if that makes sense.
And like you talked, Craig, like holding people accountable. Look at our elected officials and people in power. Are we holding them accountable compared to what they're saying, compared to the hypocrisy of what they're doing? Yeah,
and it's got to be equal on both sides, all sides, whatever you want to say, and
absolutely
not just like I love Biden.
Why?
Well, why? Can you back that up?
Is it because he's not Trump, or do you truly
exactly
like
Biden? That's the point.
Vice versa.
What's your why?
Why do you support Trump? Well, because I hate Biden. No, but why do you support Trump? What's Trump doing that you like?
Yeah.
It goes both ways. And
Absolutely.
I think that's an important thing. Not that came from the show, but I think just in life of if you believe in something, you better have a reason for it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
maybe that's not the right way to frame that because you believe in God. Well, why do you believe in God? Great question.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah. Martha May, let's wrap up. I'll have the last word. You get the third to the last word.
Third to the last word.
She gets the first word.
The first word of the last.
Third to the last word. Martha May Kashani and I'm on Facebook. It's Friday, TGI Friday.
The 13th.
The 13th. Okay, whatever.
The spooky episode,
Yeah,
getting
no
to know us a little bit better and specifically for the
It's
podcast.
been a pleasure. It truly has, getting down and answering some questions.
Yeah.
And I'm Craig Dugal, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And I just want to thank you, Matt. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of the show and opening up our minds. And it's been a fun, what are we at, 8 months?
Amen.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So it's much appreciated.
Thank you. I'm Matt Logan. You can find me on Matt Logan Speaks everywhere. And hey, thanks for being shiny, you guys. Thanks for being strong. Thanks for being hope. Thanks for being influential. Thanks for being necessary. Thanks for being you.
Hammer out the share.
Hammer out the share. Hammer the like button. Hammer out a comment. I'll be replying to comments here very shortly. So thanks for your comments. See you next week.